Welcome to all our guests, especially our distinguished honored guest, Finance Minister, Senator Aurangzeb. Thank you very much for coming. I believe we're going to start with the national anthem first. So why don't, if everybody could please stand up as a mark of respect. Again, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. As you know, we've been doing this now for over 2 decades by the Pathfinder Group, and we're very honored to have Olivier Schwab over here from the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum has been a consistent partner both for the Pathfinder Group, but also for Pakistan as well. So thank you. Olivier serves as the Managing Director at the World Economic Forum, and I think of particular note for me is he's always been head of the technological innovations that the World Economic Forum has been pushing. So thank you very much, Olivier, for joining. I'd like to start with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Zarar, and thank you for inviting me to the Investment in Pakistan lunch, and in the name of the World Economic Forum and the managing board that I represent, a warm welcome to Davos, although we're already Wednesday and many of us have been in Davos for a few days already. We're so grateful for Pathfinder's Group, a long-standing partnership with the World Economic Forum, stretching now, I think, 30 years, over 30 years. And so thank you, Ikram and Zarar, for your long-standing commitment. And when you first started coming to Davos, I was actually a student driving around the limousine in the early 90s. So a lot of time has passed since then. We also have the privilege to have in Davos Honorary Minister Aurangzeb. Thank you for joining us and for engaging with our program. And I want to recognize also, while I have the stage, the contribution of Prime Minister Sharif at our World Economic Forum special meeting in Saudi Arabia, which we had last year in April, where he delivered the closing address. And we would love to build on his engagement, on this engagement and your engagement here, to continue our relationship with Pakistan. As you know, we strive to build and promote public-private partnerships, and we bring together leaders from business, from government, from academia, from civil society for over 50 years here in Davos. And the theme of this annual meeting this year is collaboration for the intelligent age. And collaboration we need. Of course, geopolitics, climate, and technology are some of the big themes that are being discussed this year here in Davos. And the intelligent age really refers to this notion that we have all these technologies now converging from AI to sensors, to synthetic biology, to quantum computing, converging and evolving exponentially. And that creates tremendous opportunities for medical research, for climate, for energy, but also for education. But of course, we want to make sure that the development and deployment of these technologies benefit society as a whole and all humans. And that is really at the core of the conversations here in Davos. We're currently running over 150 initiatives spanning across all of these issues, which I mentioned, with our partners to drive impact at a global scale. And one of the flagship initiatives I'd like to highlight here is the Edison Alliance. This is a collaboration to foster digital inclusion, which has already achieved its objective to connect 1 billion people to essential services like healthcare, education, finance, to digital platforms. And Pathfinder Group has been one of the leaders in this initiative, also with its project, the Azan mobile account scheme, which provides financial access to the impoverished and vulnerable communities in Pakistan, and has catalyzed that. And I understand the scheme has already, in a very few years, closed on 12 million accounts. So congratulations for that. It's a demonstration of our multi-stakeholder approach to work between industries, to work with regulators, and we're really grateful for Ikram and your engagement and Pathfinder's engagement over so many years. And I wish you really a wonderful continuation of your stay here in Davos. Thank you.
Obviously, we value our partnership with the World Economic Forum, and obviously, thank you for promoting Pakistan as well, where you do. We'll break from the usual order. I'd like to give actually our chief guest the next opportunity to speak. Senator Mohammad Aurangzeb, current finance minister, Minister of Finance and Revenue for Pakistan. Previously, he's held notable positions as CEO and president of Habib Bank, and he's held senior positions in the banking industry for many, many years. He has the unenviable task of negotiating with the IMF and coming up with a package that is not just the IMF, but more importantly, the Pakistani various stakeholders, who, no matter what you do, will always criticize you. But here we are in support, and we obviously wish you the best. So you have the forum, sir.
Thank you, Zarar. Thank you, Ikram Sahab. Greatly appreciate Pathfinder Group's invite, and it's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. I think I'll keep it brief and short. I don't know what your format is, if you're going to get into a Q&A.
We will.
Okay. So I just want to probably mention 2 or 3 things. One is you mentioned the fund. On the back of that, over the last 12 to 14 months, we have moved and made significant progress in terms of macroeconomic stability. It's evidenced by various matrices, which you have all seen, whether it's our FX reserves, which had dipped down to 2 weeks of import cover. They are a little over 2 months of import cover. We have a stable currency. We have gotten to a situation with respect to the twin deficits, which have been the bane of our country for the longest time. After a very long time, we have a primary balance on the fiscal side. The current account has been positive over the last 5 months. It's on the back of very strong remittance flows, and also the exports. And the good news about exports is that we are actually diversifying. The number which has come in terms of IT services in December, $384 million of IT services export, is an all-time high for the country, and it bodes well in terms of how we take things forward. The institutional flows are back, both in terms of fixed income investors, although now given the policy rate coming down and the arbitrage opportunity going down, some of that is going back again. We see flows on the equity side as well. So the stock market is at all-time high, although much more to do over there as well. We did see some ratings upgrade in terms of the sovereign rating over the last few months. Inshallah, as we stay the course, I'm quite confident that we will see our move back into the single B category over the next few months, inshallah. Now, this is all around the macroeconomic stability, and I keep on saying and I know you are talking about digital tomorrow as well. This is the foundation. This is the bare minimum that any country can do to get their macro stability in place. When you have something like that, of course, there, especially for foreign investors, what we can do is what we did back in May and June. All the stuck-up dividends and profit repatriation and remittances, close to $2.5 billion were paid between May and June of last year on the back of the stability that we had, so that we could get into this year on a cleaner slate, and hopefully not to be repeated again. Uh, the other thing is, with respect to the fund discussion, I think there was really two things which we decided under Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's leadership right away, that we have to, on the back of the 9-month SBA, that we have to get into an extended and larger program, really for two reasons. One, to bring permanence into the macroeconomic stability, and the other is to execute structural reforms. And now, as far as these structural reforms are concerned, all of you have covered Pakistan, and you've been looking at Pakistan for the longest time, or you've lived in Pakistan for the longest time. We have known the what and why for the longest time. We just don't do it. So there is no rocket science. There is nothing, that we have to go and look for policy prescriptions. And it's fine. Everyone has their views, and they want to give their views. But any country which is hovering in terms of tax to GDP, 9 to 10%, it's Econ 101, that we have to start moving it into double digit, so that we can get into Committee of Nations and try to bring some level of semblance in terms of the fiscal discipline. Energy, again, affordable energy, renewable energy, SOEs, the kind of drag these SOEs have had on our exchequer for years and years together. And now privatization. I mean, Qasim is sitting here. I mean, I always admire him for the public-private partnership and the leadership he has taken in the government of Sindh, and we should, learn from that discussion and what they have done and put it in practice in Sindh for the rest of the country, and certainly in federation. And the last thing is public finance, in terms of reducing the size of the federal government, especially after the 18th Amendment. We are still hanging on to things which are devolved subjects. There's no reason that we have to have these ministries. There are 43 ministries, 400 attached departments. Then also around the pension reform. So what we've done is, for all civil bureaucracy colleagues, as of July 1 of last year, we have sort of said anyone who's a new joiner will be on defined contribution. So we still have to deal with the stock, and stock is a very large number, but at least we have stopped the bleeding, and it wasn't easy. Similarly, the right sizing of the federal government, since I've been tasked to chair that committee, these attempts have been made previously. I've said it in a number of forums that Dr. Ishrat, during the PTI administration, did a fantastic job in terms of, and I picked up that report, and it went into a lot of detail and was presented in the cabinet of June, July of 2019, never saw light of the day. Because when you are trying to go for a big bang approach, it at times it doesn't work, and it didn't work. So what we are now doing is taking it sort of bite size. We are taking 5 ministries at a time, looking at the attached departments, making decisions, taking it to the cabinet, taking it to the PM, getting decisions, and then looking at their implementation. So we are now at sort of wave 4. So 15 ministries are already done. You've seen some of the ministries which are going to be abolished, some of the ministries which are going to be merged, some of the departments which are going to go away. 150,000 vacancies in the federal government have been abolished. So these are all things which are not in the planning, have already been announced, and we want to cover all of this by the time we get to June. So these are some of the structural reforms and what we are trying to do. And then And the last thing I just want to mention is sort of a road back to the market. Because if we say, this is the last fund program, then there has to be some schematic around it. Because when you get into a stabilization phase, the first temptation is, okay, now let's go for growth. And we have seen it. And we have seen it in the recent past as well. But we also know that the moment we touch 4% in GDP growth, and we have seen it historically, we've seen it in the recent past, because we are in import-led and dependent economy, we get into a balance of payment problem. And once we get into a balance of payment problem, we go running back to the lender of the last resort. And we have seen all these cycles coming through. So what we need to do is to fundamentally change the DNA of the economy to make it export-led. The FDI, you all here, we value all the investment which has come in. We value all the foreign investors. WEON is sitting there, and we had a very good discussion yesterday as well. And the other investment which has come in, whether it's BYD, whether it's Aramco, for the last 5 to 6 months. But we have to move towards an efficiency-led FDI, not market-led. Of course, we are 240 million people, those people and the middle class is there. But every FDI which comes in has to have a component of producing an exportable surplus, because otherwise we will continue to be in this situation. And the last thing is, of course, accessing the international capital markets. As I said, the moment we go into single B, we try to go back into euro and sukuks, etc. And we are making a very earnest attempt to tap the Chinese capital markets for the first time in terms of inaugural panda bond issue following the Egyptian model. That is sort of the road to market. The homegrown economic plan was outlined by the Prime Minister on the 31st of December. The only reason this time around, I feel it is different because it's backed by sectoral plans. This is not a 10,000, 15,000 type of discussions. They are backup and bottoms-up plans from the various ministries, which are now in execution phase as we go forward. I'm going to stop here so that other speakers can have a chance, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those words. And we'll have an opportunity for questions answer session at the end. But next, I'd like to go to Michael Kugelman. Michael is Director of the South Asia Institute at the Wilson Center. A noted foreign policy expert, specifically in the South Asian region. He has written extensively, commented extensively, and sometimes created controversy as well. So, Michael, I will turn to you.
I want to thank the Segal family for inviting me here, and I also want to say it's an honor to be on the stage with the Honorable Minister and Mr. Schwab earlier, and the others. So, from the perspective of U.S.-Pakistan relations, which I follow closely, the question of investment is a very salient one. U.S. investors have operated in Pakistan for quite some time in a range of spaces, and there is a well-established and long-standing U.S.-Pakistan Business Council attached to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington. Some of the biggest American companies, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, many others, have invested in Pakistan for quite some time. And more broadly, as many of you will know, the U.S. has invested in Pakistani infrastructure, such as dams, as well as schools and hospitals over the years. Now, others are more well-qualified than me to talk about the best sectors to look at and the challenges and opportunities in each of them. So I thought I'd use my few minutes to talk about a broader issue related to today's Pakistan. And in that regard, I'll make a modest proposal as a friend of Pakistan. And it relates to the issue of what I would describe as Pakistan's story. Officials, business leaders often aim to attract investment from the international community by making pitches to foreign interlocutors about why it's worth investing in Pakistan. And the pitch revolves around a number of things, and that might include things like Pakistan's untapped mineral reserves, its textile industry, its large and young population, its fledgling tech sector, and so on. I would argue, though, there might be a shortcoming here. And that is that today, if you look at the world around Pakistan, in the region and beyond, other countries and investors, particularly those from the West and the Gulf that are key Pakistani targets for investment, they are already doing a lot of investing and with more levels of confidence and comfort in other countries in Asia that have these same assets that Pakistan singles out in its pitches to investors. India can offer mineral reserves, a large youth bulge, a robust tech industry. Fast-growing economies like Vietnam and Singapore have the tech growth potential. Bangladesh has a strong textile industry, and so on. And I think that this idea of rethinking the pitch, so to speak, is especially salient when it comes to the U.S. As you all know, we have a new administration that just took office this week. And I think that it will be a challenge, to be candid, at least initially, to get the attention of the Trump administration, to move the relationship forward. And I would argue that to pitch Pakistan as an important country because of its demographics and its strategic location, which is very true, might not get you as far as you would like with the next administration. So what I'm saying is that Pakistan's investment prospects might receive a boost if that pitch can be adjusted a bit so that it hones in on what truly makes Pakistan unique and as an investment destination. And I think that the onus will need to be on Pakistan and its government to take the initiative and be proactive about this. And I think that with macroeconomic indicators having stabilized a bit in Pakistan, as the minister was just noting, in terms of inflation coming down, foreign reserves coming down with new IMF support in place, perhaps now can be the time to think about how best to approach key partners, donors, investors in the United States and elsewhere. If you look at some of the figures that came out last year from the government, from Pakistan's government, about investment, it is notable that even though we saw some stabilization of the macroeconomy last year, there are indications that Pakistan's investment ratio went down, and I believe I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. Pakistan's investment ratio actually sunk to a 50-year low. It fell to just 13% of the size of the economy. And that's pretty significant, particularly that the economy had stabilized. So I think, and no one needs to listen to me. I'm probably the last person that the government of Pakistan should listen to. But I do think that as we look at how the world operates today, as we look at how Washington operates today, as we look at Pakistan's place in the region and in the world, I think it's worth having some useful conversations. And it's not my place to be saying what should be at the forefront of those conversations. What should be Pakistan's story? What can it offer to the world? There's much that it can offer, I'm sure, but it might be time, now might be a useful time to think more about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And I was going to ask you about the Trump administration, but I think you've answered that very well. I think the one thing I think the finance minister didn't talk about that the government's done extraordinarily well is set up these special technology zones. And I think these will be a game changer because you have a liberalized investment climate there. You have tax exemptions both on custom duties, but also tax breaks when it comes to dividends and so forth. And I think that really, in my mind, will boost what I believe is going to be the next stage of growth. And, we are very honored to have Abu Bakr here as well, who is chairman of the Pakistan Software Export Board. He's been a noted CIO of many companies as well in America and, comes with a vast background. And we're very delighted that he has taken over the chairmanship of this very important institution. So, Abu Bakr, please, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ikram Saab and Zarar, for inviting me over. And thank you for everyone for attending here. It's an honor to be here. Just a little bit of background, if I can share that so people can have a context of it. I joined the Pakistan Software Export Board 3 months ago as a chairman or as a CEO. But prior to that, I was in the US for 30 years, and I worked in venture capital, private equity, as well as more tech space for the last 30 years. And I was always on the other side when I was actually getting work done or delivering the work or presenting the work. So I understand some of these opportunities as well as the challenges that were there. So that puts me into that spot, and I always feel passionate about that. The opportunity that we have is far bigger than the challenges that we have. And I always felt that at some point I'm going to do this and I'm going to take a plunge and I'm going to do something about it. And that's where this moment came in 3 months ago when I decided to take a plunge. And let me just give you a little bit of a story of where we are. And I think Aurangzeb has very elaborately mentioned the whole macro indicators. I'm not going to go into that, but very specifically, if you look into the tech sector or IT sector, or in just general in the digital sector of things, things have been progressing well, but I think we have a tremendous opportunity. I think we have barely tipping the surface of it. Although we are growing probably one of the fastest sector, I think even in this year, we have been growing 28% on the exports in the first 6 months, and we're going to continue to probably accelerate that. One of the things and a few observations in the first 3 months of joining and looking at it, I understand the potential, I understand the infrastructure, I understand there's some of the challenges that are with the infrastructure, but despite of all of this, our resiliency, our commitment, and one of the big positive, I would say, is across the board. What I felt so heartwarming is there's such an alignment at all levels. In finance ministry, I can tell one, but from a PM and down to every sector you think about it, everybody knows this is the sector that we have to continue to do more. This is a sector we're going to continue to invest in. This is a sector we can easily get there. We are the only sector that probably has the biggest trade surplus in the country, and we'll continue to do that. I think there is no, one of the things that you do when you work in the public sector, and I'm a private sector guy, I'm sure he can attest to that too. When you come from a private sector into public sector, you learn a lot of different things. But one thing is easy for us, or at least for myself, is I don't have to sell anybody what needs to be done. I think he very rightly so, and I felt it across the board. There are no shortage of studies. There's no shortage of what we can do and what we should have to do. It's just we have not been able to do it. Our problem has been the execution. Our problem has been historically like we have not been, yes, sometimes we have grand visions of it, but if you don't have an implementation and execution, and we don't have the right people in the right place to make it happen, it just becomes very difficult. And then we do it again and we do it again. And people start to lose credibility. And then international, for people who are outside, looking in from outside inside, you always felt like we have heard this story before. We have seen this, we have heard this has happened many times. What's different this time? And I think, again, by being inside in 3 months, don't take my word for it, but I can tell you for sure that there is no shortage and there is no lack of commitment from any sector across the board. And we were just literally yesterday, we were meeting with all the different ministries about how we ease some of these ease of doing business and all of these issues that we have in the infrastructure with Aurangzeb's ministries and state banks and FBRs and everybody else. We all are there, and everybody wants to do this thing. Nobody wants to commit. We presented our own sectoral plans to the Prime Minister, and within 2 hours, I think Prime Minister was so, he's just like, this is exactly what we want to do, how we want to do it. And he makes sure that every month we give them a monthly report, and he actually religiously do that. And I don't think there's any prime minister of a country asks for an IT report in every 30 days. But our prime minister does, because he's very passionate about it, and we see a lot of opportunities. So I'll leave it here, and then I know you're going to ask follow-up questions.
Obviously, we wish you the best of luck. And I think 3 months there, but you'll see it's not just, I know people don't want to talk about the potential, but I think if you look at Pakistan's existing landscape, it's even just to say something for the Pathfinder group, VRG has created a homemade switch created by Pakistani software. Nothing was imported. So it's a matter of pride that these things are being created inside Pakistan by Pakistanis. So you can see already in there. And, it's not just the special technology zones, but the part that, there are about 50 software parks that have been created in Pakistan by this government and the previous government. And the fact that we are one of the top 5 English-speaking countries, and a lot of times, our geopolitical location can be a curse, unstable borders. But I think if you look at a geostrategic location, it's also a big benefit. We are the gateway to Central Asia. We're the gateway to Europe. We can be the gateway to Africa as well. So, these are elements that can make Pakistan very, very successful. So thank you to all our speakers as well. I will open that up to questions right now, and then we'll do
My name is Kabul Khatian, and I am chairman of Sindh Irrigation and Drainage Authority. And other than that, I'm also at Sindh Investment Board. I'm one of the directors with the minister today. So the question that everybody asked us over here, and a lot of people came from London to Karachi, a lot of people came from USA to Karachi, a lot of doctor friends, a lot of other people who want to come and invest in Karachi. But there are only two questions they ask. Number one, that when they come and invest over there in Karachi and Pakistan, so they get the money in. When they're going back after 5 years, if the currency devalues, you have to make a certain set. They always say that at least fix it for 10 years, 5 years, so that we know when we can exit. And when otherwise if they come in and if it devalues, the money is finished in no time. Number one. Number two, the other question that they keep asking us is that when we make some profit, we cannot take it back to our country or wherever they have come from. So that these are the only two questions I would like to ask. Thank you, sir.
And I can appreciate what, whether it's local investors, whether they're foreign investors, basic thing that they are looking for is a policy framework and even more importantly, policy continuity. And that's what we have to deliver. You are just focusing on one aspect of it, which is FX and currency, which is important. But the issue for us is that administration after administration after administration, we do not follow through and we have that lack. So that is what we have to address. As far as the currency is concerned, it has to be dictated by by supply and demand, and it has to be market-based exchange rate. So we cannot say, where, the currency is going to be in sort of 5 to 6 years. But what we can do is to ensure there is permanency in the macroeconomic stability. Because you are talking about, and rightly so, right? I mean, if the existing investors cannot get their money out, right? Because when you go into these boom and bust cycles, and you go into, I can tell you as a banker, right? I mean, you went into essential, non-essential regime. People could not get, materials in to sort of get things going. Then letters of credit came back in. The contracts started coming through in. But I've been very open, right? I mean, May and June, we cleared the entire backlog. When you talked about American Business Council, the Overseas Chamber, etc., right? Now, we just have to ensure that this does not happen again. That is what we need to ensure. The interest rates will go up and down. The currency will go up and down. They normally come in. I mean, all very savvy investors are sitting here. That's where the political risk comes in. That's where other hedging mechanisms come in. But the main thing that we have to ensure is that we do not go back into these boom and bust cycles. But I do appreciate the pain that people have felt, because you have to start with acknowledgement. If you say that everything is fine, no, there's a lot of pain. I mean, people had to wait for their repatriations for 2 years. And, they are very generous head offices. I've worked for global banks for bulk of my career. And, I know how the risk managers work. So it's important we ensure that we don't get into that situation again.
My name is Anjum Jora. I'm a resident Swiss Pakistani national. I have a request. Mr. Ikram Sehgal did all his life doing something for Pakistan. Why the government of Pakistan is not sponsoring in a way and giving these events a proper acceptance? But no matter who comes in, who goes, he's here and he has been working all my life. And I personally believe we should sponsor him in a way that he is Pakistan. In my eyes, he is Pakistan. I mean, you are minister today, you might not be tomorrow. We have been seeing prime ministers and the presidents here, but there is no on government level acceptance that where we can touch and get the information like your ministry. I mean, you're a banker, you have to come to the client. So your best person in Switzerland at this very moment, I know, is Ikram Sehgal and Zarar. So please take care of them. And
so the only thing I would say, because I'm not sure if there's a question there, but if it's a statement, I fully agree with your statement. Number one. And number two, let me be very clear. As far as I'm concerned, the private sector has to lead, period. As far as I'm concerned, government has no business in being in business. Private sector has to lead, and private sector, wherever private sector has led, right? That is where, people have made the most progress. Now, in terms of the individuals who have, they have to be acknowledged. I fully agree we should acknowledge Mr. Ikram Sehgal in a very big way.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. I would just like to repeat what a few years ago former Prime Minister of Pakistan said. He said, let it be in the private sector, as if the government gets into it, even this will not happen.
Yeah, that's right. I also fully agree with it. Keep the government out as much as you can.
We'll take one more question, please. Okay, right here in the middle.
My question is regarding India. Is the government open to exploring trade agreements with India to benefit from its large economy and vast market? Thank you.
I think at this point in time, quite frankly, we should just ensure that that sense would prevail, and we can continue to have cross-border trade across all regions, and so I think that is what we need to focus on. Of course, any location, any country, trade with neighbors is the obvious thing to do. But obviously it has to start from somewhere. We are very clear in terms of what we're doing with Middle East, the Central Asian states. That's a huge corridor for us now at this point in time as we go forward. So yeah, I'm sure time will come.
Minister, thank you for being here, and we're very grateful. And we heard a lot of people say a lot of good things. I'm very grateful, even Oliver is not here. But a lot of work that has happened with the Edison Alliance
Yes.
for the Sun mobile account has been because of support the World Economic Forum has given us. And the only thing, Minister, I will say is that we are recognized in the world, not in Pakistan. Somehow,
So we will do that. I know, sir, there's a discussion on the digital side tomorrow.
Yeah.
I do think, the work that you have done in terms of Asan Mobile,
Yeah.
the payment rails that have now been created vis-a-vis RAST,
Yeah.
these are all such key enablers in terms of financial inclusion. And of course, the Vion and Jazz team is sitting here.
Yeah.
The sky is the limit for us.
Yes, but what happens is everybody takes into consideration their own self-interest, right? Even though Jazz helped us a lot of time when we were launching the Asan mobile account and all that. When it came to agent interoperability, they put the foot down and waited while we were waiting for Easy. But Habib Bank and Habib Connect and Easy Pass has connected. We are now officially agent interoperability. But hopefully, they will look after the interest of Pakistan also, not only on their own interest and this thing, etc. Right? So, is that thing. Thank you very much.